The movie starts with Jack waking up and greeting the inanimate objects around the room, such as the chair, the wardrobe, the sink, and so forth. Having only encountered 2 people in his life, he has befriended the objects in the room. The child has no concept of space and believes the room is all that exists. To avoid explaining the harsh truth of his life, Joy has never told him about the outside world. The 2 have named the abductor Old Nick. He comes to Joy every night and assaults her sexually. After 7 years of torment, she has grown accustomed to it. He also brings them essential groceries and buys them clothes occasionally. Jack is thrilled because today is his 5th birthday. His mother makes him a cake with whatever materials they have. Jack is excited about receiving something he has only ever seen on TV, but is disappointed to see the cake has no candles. He insists that Joy should have asked Old Nick for candles for their Sunday treat. Joy explains that she can only request essential items from him. When it turns dark, she makes Jack sleep inside a tiny cupboard as usual. She does this so the kid won't have to witness Old Nick assaulting her. When the abductor enters the room, Jack watches him through the slats of the cupboard. He is terrified of going out because he can tell the man hurts his mother. The next day, while Joy is having breakfast, an unpleasant tooth falls out of her mouth. She hands it to her son, who keeps it in his mouth. They have breakfast, which consists of only a piece of toast. The kid wishes for something else, but Joy remains unresponsive, knowing that this is all she can provide. When Jack wakes up the following morning, he is thrilled to find a brand new toy car on the table. Old Nick has brought it for him as a birthday present. Jack believes that Old Nick is a magician who can conjure things out of the TV. He spends the entire day playing with the car in the room. For a while, they both shout at the ceiling, hoping to catch someone's attention. However, as usual, nothing happens. Later, during a conversation, Jack mentions his imaginary pet dog, Lucky. Joy informs him that Lucky isn't real, leaving him upset. When Joy is distracted, Jack sees a mouse on the floor for the first time in his life. He tries to touch it, but Joy notices and chases it away. He feels sad because the mouse was the only animal he has ever seen. That night, while preparing dinner, Joy accidentally leaves the toaster oven on, and it catches fire. She quickly turns it off and tries to disperse the smell, hoping Old Nick won't notice. However, when he arrives at night, he smells the burnt cheese instantly. He becomes annoyed and calls her names. When she retorts with a snarky comment, he becomes violently angry and almost hits her. It turns out he was laid off from work 6 months ago and can hardly provide for the 3 of them. Poor Jack tries to ignore the conversation, but unintentionally makes a noise. Old Nick notices and attempts to open the cupboard to see him. To prevent him from talking to her son, Joy invites him to the bed. Later that night, Jack sneaks out of his cupboard and tiptoes over to the 2 of them. Old Nick happens to be awake and spots the kid. He lunges for Jack, but Joy throws herself on top of him, preventing him from touching her son. An enraged Nick threatens to kill her and storms off, leaving a crying Jack behind. Joy consoles him as he sobs in her arms and apologizes for coming out of the cupboard. The next morning, the room feels suspiciously cold. Joy notices that their heater is turned off, indicating that Old Nick must have cut off the power supply to the shed. With the shortage of money, she fears Nick will starve them to death. So she sits Jack down and explains that they are being held in a shed by a bad person. She reveals how Nick deceived her when she was only 17, asking for help with his sick dog, and then kidnapped her in the shed. Previously, she used to live with Jack's grandparents in a house that had a hammock. The kid refuses to believe her and insists that trees, houses, and hammocks only exist on TV. Although Jack is stubborn, Joy continues to tell him about the outside world and even shows him a dried leaf that has fallen on the skylight. However, he insists the leaves are green, accusing her of lying. The next day, while watching TV, he asks her if trees and people are real. Joy calmly explains to him how the real world works, finally making him believe her. Without wasting much time, she devises a plan to escape. She boils water and uses it to fake Jack having a fever. She even forces herself to vomit and spreads it around the pillow to make him smell bad. The kid cries and claims he doesn't want to do it. Joy is pained to see him crying, but she has no other way to escape. When Old Nick arrives that night, she tells him that the cold has made Jack sick. Nick touches his forehead, which is burning because of the hot water. He claims that he will bring antibiotics tomorrow and leaves. Joy is disappointed because she had hoped he would take Jack to the hospital, giving the kid a chance to escape. The following day, she comes up with a new plan. She asks Jack to pretend to be dead and wraps him up in a rug. She trains him to unroll himself and run for help. The kid is scared, but agrees to do it. When Old Nick arrives later, Joy has already wrapped up Jack in the rug and is pretending to cry. She claims that he died during the night and blames Old Nick for his death. Nick panics and quickly takes the kid outside, still wrapped up in the rug. He puts him onto the back of a pickup truck and drives off. From inside the rug, Jack feels the truck moving and eventually unravels the rug, revealing the full view of the sky for the first time. When the truck slows down, he carefully jumps out of it. Old Nick notices and stops the truck. But by then, Jack has already encountered a man walking his dog. Old Nick tries to bring Jack back to the vehicle, but the man finds it suspicious and threatens to call the police. Old Nick drives away, leaving the kid lying on the ground. Jack stays there until he is rescued by the police. He tells them about his mother and shows them the tooth he has kept of hers. When he mentions their life in a shed where they aren't allowed to leave, the police realize the gravity of the situation. They promptly call for backup and begin searching for the shed. A few hours later, they successfully rescue Joy, who is fortunately safe. She reunites with her son and commends him for his courage. The two embrace, celebrating their freedom after being captured for 7 years. When Jack wakes up the next day, he finds himself in a hospital bed. He gazes outside the window, still struggling to believe that the outside world is real. Joy and he take a bath and a shower for the first time. Jack is nervous about going under running water, but he eventually gets used to it. The doctors conduct various tests on them and declare them healthy. They are advised to wear a lot of sunscreen since they were hardly exposed to sunlight during captivity. Jack is also told to wear sunglasses if the world seems too bright. The kid is shy to talk to the doctor, so he quietly whispers to Joy if he wants to say something. Joy's parents, Nancy and Robert, finally arrive at the hospital and embrace their long-lost daughter in a tight hug. They had accepted that she was never going to return after suddenly disappearing one day. Joy is informed that her parents have divorced and her mother is now dating a man named Leo. Following that, Joy and Jack are taken home where a crowd of people and reporters have gathered to witness their return. Jack needs assistance to walk down the stairs as he is not used to it. He meets Leo, who is delighted to see both of them. After they settle in, Nancy suggests cutting Jack's hair, but the kid quietly whispers that his strength is in his hair. At dinner, the family enjoys a nutritious meal that is new to Jack. He eats ice cream for the first time and experiences a brain freeze. Joy notices that her father hasn't spoken to Jack at all. She realizes that he is not comfortable with Jack being his grandchild because he was the product of her being sexually assaulted. Enraged that he is not willing to accept her son, she gets into an argument with him and storms off to her room with Jack. The following day, Joy shows Jack a picture of her and her high school friends. She is clearly annoyed at the fact that their lives turned out to be nice while she was trapped in that hell of a room. Jack has a hard time adjusting to the new life. He never leaves his mother's side and doesn't talk to anyone else. Leo makes the kid comfortable and talks to him like a father, which helps him a lot. Joy falls into deep depression after struggling to be happy, even after escaping captivity. She forces Jack to play even when he refuses and gets into a heated argument with her mother. Some days later, their family's lawyer informs them that they will need money for the upcoming trial, and the easiest way to get some is to do a primetime interview. A journalist shows up at the house to interview Joy. She asks her intrusive questions about self-harm and her relationship with the captor, making her feel worse than she already did. At one point in the interview, Joy is asked why she didn't beg the abductor to leave Jack in an orphanage, implying that she was selfish. The interviewer has upset her so much that she sinks into depression. The next morning, Jack walks to the bathroom and is horrified to see his mother lying on the ground. But she is soon saved by the paramedics. While Joy is admitted to the hospital, Jack is left alone with Nancy and Leo. With time, he begins opening up to them and gets used to being around people. Leo brings his dog home, which excites Jack, who still remembers his imaginary dog, Lucky. One day, Jack tells Nancy he wants to cut his hair and send it to Joy because she needs his strength more than he does. Nancy happily does as he says and gives the boy a neat haircut. At the end of it, the kid tells her that he loves her. Nancy is overwhelmed and can barely manage to whisper back, "I love you too." That day, a neighbor's kid calls Jack out to play. He makes a friend for the first time in his life and plays with him in the backyard. At the same time, Joy returns home and smiles, watching him play. When the mother and the son reunite, she tells him that his hair helped her recover quickly. As time goes by, Jack experiences several things with his mother. They go to different restaurants, parks, and places they didn't get to visit during those years. They also hang a hammock at the house, which Jack has always wanted to play in. As the two swing in it, Jack asks to visit the room. Joy is shocked by the request, but she agrees to take him for a visit. When Jack returns to the place, he comments that it has shrunk since they were last here because he remembers it being bigger. Before leaving, he bids farewell to the objects in the room, just like he used to do while in captivity,